Well, staying with the issue, senior U.S. officials say President Obama is considering widening covert attacks in Pakistan. The U.S. has been conducting raids in the tribal areas close to the border with Afghanistan. The attacks by CIA-operated drones are meant to target alleged Taliban positions. Well, Dr. Lawrence Korb from the Center for American Progress joins me live now from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Korb. Why would the U.S. want to attack deeper into Pakistan?
Well, I think what they want to do is to protect the American forces operating in Afghanistan, not just the American forces, but the NATO forces, because the Taliban and al-Qaeda are using those havens to regroup and to come back and launch attacks against Americans in Afghanistan. The other is that right now is the home of al-Qaeda leaders, and they're plotting attacks on not just the United States, but a lot of our European allies from that part of the world.
Well, obviously Pakistan doesn't like these attacks. Won't an extension put increased strain on the relationship between Islamabad and Washington?
Well, it certainly does increase some strain, but I think the Pakistanis obviously will protest publicly, but I think they recognize, too, that those groups can be a threat to them, and until they can get their military together and get the country stabilized, they don't really mind the United States doing that. I know they do protest, but I do think, given all the visits we've had back and forth with our military and their military, they basically think that this is the right thing to do. They don't want it to go on indefinitely, though.
Apart from the troop surge, President Obama still has to outline his strategy for Afghanistan. What are the hurdles he's facing to come up with a plan?
Well, I think he faces a couple of hurdles. One, do the American people have the patience to stay in there for an extended period of time? The United States has been there now since 2001. It's going on 8 years. Number two, given our economic problems at home, will Americans be willing to fund this operation? And number three, really, what is the end game that the United States and its NATO allies can agree on? Because remember, about half the troops in there are from NATO countries that support this effort as well.
Well, with all these considerations, how much is President Obama's reputation on the line when it comes to Afghanistan, then?
Well, I think it's going to be on the line, because in the campaign for the White House, he said Iraq was the wrong war, Afghanistan was where the real threat came from, and that if he got elected, he was going to put more emphasis on Afghanistan, which he has already done. He's ordered 17,000 more American troops, which will get there by the end of this summer. And the question is, does he send the 13,000 more that General McKiernan, the on-scene commander, has asked for?
Let's turn now to the U.S. anti-missile plans in Eastern Europe and the Czech Parliament postponing its vote. Does that mean everything is up in the air at the moment? 90% of these jobs will be in the private sector.
Well, I think that's a good thing, because this was very, very premature to put those missiles in. They have not yet really been tested. It was not something that was coordinated with all of the other countries in Europe and with the Russians. President Obama was never a big supporter of this like President Bush was. So I think this vote will give us some time to reassess that and make sure that before we do it, it's really necessary and it's something that's not seen as destabilizing our relations with Russia. We've got much more important issues with Russia than to put that missile system in there. And by and large, the people of the Czech Republic and Poland are not in favor of it. The Bush administration put an awful lot of pressure on the governments to support that.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your analysis. Dr. Lawrence Korb there, a defense expert from the Center for